Welcome to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics to keep you talking and the talk that keeps you
Bluetooth
thinking.
connected.
So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation. Yes. We're going to go ahead and get in some good stuff here tonight. We're going to talk about the moon landing. Why not? We'll get that. We'll use that to get the conversation started here tonight. Hopefully everybody can hear me out there. We had some technical difficulties a little earlier here. Let me look out in the chat and see if I'm heard. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a 1. Give me something. Let me know I'm sounding good, sounding clear. As we do that, okay, I do see thumbs. That's good. That's good. Let me go ahead and say what's up to everybody that's showing up here tonight. We have Mel WD40 who just became a member. We do appreciate you, Mel WD40. We got Kitty Catty Whack. Kitty Catty Whack is in the building. Thanks for coming on in. We also have Fast Timmy. Fast Timmy is in the building. Thanks for showing up here. We have T-Bone. T-Bone in the building. Thanks for coming in as well. We have David Norenberg. Hey, David Norenberg. Thanks for coming on in. We have JSCO77. Thanks for coming on in. Race fan. Appreciate you showing up here tonight. Joe Monk. Broken Shadow Feather, appreciate you coming on in as well. Okay, here we go. We're going to go ahead and get into some really good stuff. Let me try to switch a couple things here. All right. We got the phone numbers. The phone numbers to call in 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG. If you're outside the United States, 001-856-843-3444. That's 001-856-THE-DIGG. I'll be throwing out the link to join the stage here in a little bit here as well. What I want to do is first jump into the show, but not before we say what's up to our members. The memberships are available. T-Bone the Beekeeper, D. Nunley, Maggie M10, Class 6, Miss Catherine Jones, Leanne Bridges, Polly Rodderman, Lil Cam 51, Fast Hemi, Dev from Sacramento, Race Fan, Magneticus, Blue Riders, DG, Area 51, Tamarkman, Crave Dog, Perry Marv, Joe Mug, Rockin' Rory, KAS, Wes Decker, and Joanne, Emperor Penguin, Deadfish Cheese Spread, Amanda's Crazy Life Channel, Mike Bothwell, and Izzy Beth, and also Mel WD40 joining us. We do appreciate that here. So yeah, there's a sound issue on my end, so I don't know. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear everything that we present today, and I'll hopefully be able to hear you as well when you jump on stage. We'll find out in just a moment, but here's what I want to do. We want to talk about the moon landing. We brought this up the other day, thought it'd be a good conversation to have because why not? Why not talk about the moon landing? Did it happen? Did it actually happen? Some people say yes, some people say no. We've done a show about this on the Social Dig maybe a year or so ago. I'll be using some of the old slides that I had put together in order to kind of take us through the show here. So let's start it out with this. Let's start it out with the Apollo 11 video of the launch back in 1969. You guys should be able to hear the sound on this. I can't hear it, but you guys should be able to. So let me bring this up here.
How about you, Control?
And we will watch
Guidance,
this
you happy?
together
Fido, how about you?
Where to go?
from the beginning. Here we go.
The Apollo 11 lunar module Eagle, flown by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, took about 12.5 minutes to go from its orbital speed of nearly 6,000 kilometers an hour to a soft touchdown on Mare Tranquillitatis. This was the first Apollo landing, and it would prove to be the most arduous. Prior to its descent, Eagle was orbiting the Moon around the lunar equator in an east to west direction. This orbit's low point was only about 16 kilometers in altitude, a little over 50,000 feet, and would occur about 500 kilometers east of the landing site. Here, Eagle's main engine would be ignited to begin the descent to the surface, an event called Powered Descent Initiation, or PDI. Eagle's problems began even as the spacecraft appeared from around the Moon's limb. It had been fitted with metal sheets below its manoeuvring thrusters to protect its lower section from their hot exhaust, but these were interfering with the reception pattern of its dish antenna. Also, unknown to the astronauts, an error in their trajectory had moved the probable landing point 6 kilometers downrange of its intended spot and nearly into unplanned territory. Once the burn began, further difficulties would mar Eagle's final descent to the surface. The majority of the descent was controlled by the onboard computer, using one of 3 programs stored in its memory. And it would continue for a further 9 minutes. Its function was to start the engine and control the braking phase. The first 3 minutes after PDI were flown with the windows facing the surface. This allowed Armstrong to time the passing of landmarks and make a crude judgment of their trajectory. Armstrong then turned Eagle around to have the windows face upwards. Now the landing radar could see the surface and feed accurate altitude and velocity data to the computer. With about 3 minutes remaining, control of Eagle switched to P64 and the start of the approach phase of the descent. Eagle pitched forward to a more upright attitude, which gave the crew their first view of the landing site. It also allowed the computer to indicate where on the surface it intended to land, and it gave Armstrong the opportunity to move that point if he thought it unsuitable. About 600 meters out, control was transferred to P66. This put Armstrong into the control loop, letting him adjust Eagle's attitude and rate of descent as he flew helicopter-like to the surface.
All right, we'll stop that one right there. That's not actually the one that I wanted us to see, but that was actually pretty good to get it started, giving you a generalization on how the approach had to be, what angle they had to come in to make their descent. So that was actually pretty awesome, but not the video.
Okay, let's go there, Capcom.
Give me just a second. It wasn't that one. It was this one here.
Controllers going around the horn, gonna go for undocking. Okay, Retro, go. Fido, go. Guide, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. Jinsei, go. Ecom, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go for undocking.
Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins arrived at the Moon on Saturday, July 19th.
When we did get close and we rolled out and saw it for the first time, it was a revelation. It was gigantic. It filled our entire window.
The next day, Sunday, July 20th, was landing day.
In a lot of anticipation, we finally come to the day, the moment that this is about to commence.
Landing on the Moon was absolutely the most difficult piece of any Apollo mission, okay? Think about it as a controlled fall out of lunar orbit. The problem is, in this controlled fall out of orbit, you only have enough fuel for one try.
Capcom, we're go for landing. Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're go for landing, over.
The trajectory had been wrong. They were targeted into this inhospitable place. Then they had to fly over this area at a high forward velocity, then pitch up to slow down so that kill their forward velocity, and then start down like a helicopter. So now we're critical fuel state. And that's why the 60-second call was given, and then the 30-second call.
Then I really got nervous, was calling out 25 seconds of fuel left, and then 20 seconds of fuel. Oh, jeez.
Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent. Mode control both auto, descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 413 is in.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
The landing to me was a great celebration. The nation was almost euphoric.
Well, it proved that the United States could accomplish tremendous goals if they worked together as a team.
Okay, all right. So, nice little film, right? I mean, it seems really good. Seems like we landed on the moon. Great presentation. Nice reaccount of the day. But as I did in the previous video, here's what I want to do. I'm going to read some things here. And I did this on my previous presentation, but we'll make sure that we bring this up here. All right, the push for the moon, and I'm gonna start it off like this, so we can get into some discussion. I'm gonna go through two scenarios, right? So we're gonna look at this as the landing actually happened, right? So this is how this plays out. The Eagle has landed. In the summer of 1969, the world held its breath as humanity embarked on an unprecedented journey. The Apollo 11 mission was poised to make history. On board the spacecraft were three brave astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. As the Saturn V rocket thundered towards the heavens, millions watched, hearts pounding, hoping for the success of this audacious venture. The crew hurtled through space, leaving behind the blue jewel of Earth, venturing further than any humans had before. Meanwhile, back on Earth, families, friends, and strangers united in a collective sense of wonder and pride. They listened intently to every transmission, their eyes fixed on television screens, waiting for that monumental moment. Finally, after days of travel, the lunar module, affectionately named Eagle, separated from the command module, leaving Michael Collins to circle the moon alone. Inside the Eagle, Armstrong and Aldrin guided their spacecraft towards the lunar surface. As the Eagle descended, the tension in the control room was palpable. Every second counted, every maneuver scrutinized. Armstrong's voice crackled through the radio, cool and composed. Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. A wave of euphoria swept through Mission Control. The world let out a collective cheer. They made it. The first humans had touched down on the moon. After hours of meticulous preparations, Neil Armstrong descended the ladder, his heart pounding in rhythm with the history he was about to make. With deliberate steps, he touched the lunar soil and declared, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Buzz Aldrin soon joined him on the surface, and together they planted the American flag, a symbol of human achievement and unity transcending borders and politics. They spent hours conducting experiments, collecting samples, and capturing the stark beauty of the moon on film. The Earth hung in the sky, a fragile blue marble against the vastness of space. As the mission concluded, the lunar module blasted off. The world watched with bated breath. The rendezvous with Michael Collins was a testament to human ingenuity, precision, and collaboration. The return journey was met with relief and jubilation. The three astronauts splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, and a new era dawned for humanity. The Apollo 11 mission had not only fulfilled a dream, but it had shown what united determination and boundless imagination could achieve. The legacy of Apollo 11 lives on, a testament to human potential and a reminder that there are no limits to what we can accomplish when we reach the stars. How awesome is that? Feels pretty awesome, right? It's the perfect scenario. We make it to the moon. The world watches. We successfully touch foot on the moon. We plant our flag, the first flag to ever be planted on a foreign celestial body. Right? Perfect. But there are some people out there that don't feel that that's what happened. This is what they feel like happened. The lunar illusion. In the summer of 1969, in the hush corridors of a covert film studio, a team of skilled technicians and artists embarked on a mission of their own. Their task, to create the illusion of the Apollo 11 moon landing, a feat that would go down in history as mankind's greatest achievement. Under the shroud of utmost secrecy, the studio was transformed into a meticulous recreation of the lunar surface. Every crater, rock, and speck of moon dust was meticulously crafted. Advanced technology was employed to simulate the harsh lighting conditions and the desolate expanse of space. The astronauts, handpicked from their acting prowess, were coached to perfection. Neil Armstrong, the stoic commander, embodied the role effortlessly. His calm demeanor and deliberate movements were rehearsed to convey the gravity of a moment. Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, mirrored Armstrong's performance flawlessly. The absence of stars in the photographs was an intentional choice, a calculated move to eliminate any inconsistencies that might arise from the simulation of the lunar landscape. The film crew knew that including stars could inadvertently reveal the earthly origin of their production. Special effects wizards worked tirelessly to create the illusion of low gravity. Harnesses and suspension systems allowed the astronauts to float effortlessly. Their movements choreographed with precision. The flag planted on the moon was designed to ripple and sway, mimicking the behavior of fabric in a vacuum. As Neil Armstrong's voice echoed through the radio declaring, "Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed," the team held their breath. The world listened, captivated by the broadcast. It was a performance for the ages, a testament to the artistry and ingenuity of those involved. And we know who may have been involved in filming that. The iconic words, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind," were scripted to perfection. They echoed through the studio, recorded for posterity. The world watched in awe, unaware that they were witnessing a masterful production. In the years that followed, the truth remained hidden, known only to those who had played their roles in this audacious feat. The film reels were carefully archived, the studio dismantled, leaving behind no trace of the lunar illusion. As the decades passed, the story became enshrined in history, a testament to human achievement. The Apollo 11 mission, hailed as a triumph of science and exploration, was, in reality, a testament to the power of imagination and artistry. And so, the secret of the lunar hoax remained hidden, a tantalizing whisper in the annals of history known only to a select few who had witnessed the birth of mankind's most ambitious illusion. So it could go both ways, essentially, right? So we looked at both sides of the outlook on the moon landing. Some people agree with the first rendition, which is what we know historically. Some people go with the second rendition, where this has been filmed on a soundstage. There are things that can lean you either way. It can make you feel Like either thing could be true. So looking back, man's first step on the moon. That's what we heard about. Neil Armstrong steps out, Buzz Aldrin right behind him. They step foot on the moon. Awesome moment. One step for man, one giant leap for mankind, right? Or did it happen that way? Did it really happen this way? It's a lot of people to say yes. Or, okay, yep, this is planting the flag. First ones to do it. We committed to be the first ones. And that was another tricky thing about it. We committed in 1961. And I know I have that somewhere here. The JFK gave the speech saying that by the end of the decade, we would be on the moon. By the end of that decade. And we made it. Let's see, summer of 69. So we made it by 5 months. That's another reason why people feel like, okay, it was orchestrated because, we set a goal and then we actually hit it flawlessly, essentially, at the buzzer. Well, I don't know what a lot of people think about that. If the chat is moving, I don't see it. Let me see. Okay. Some people believe that this was filmed on a studio, on a sound stage. Depends on what you think. Conspiracy theorists suggest that the level of detail in the footage and photos could only have been achieved in a high-end film studio, implying a stage production. Moon landing filmed on set by Stanley Kubrick. Essentially what people go to. It's the reason why they believe. Flag movements. Some state that the American flag planted on the moon seemed to ripple as if there were wind, which would be impossible in the vacuum of space. The lack of stars, as we talked about earlier. Some claim that the absence of visible stars in the moon landing photos is suspicious, suggesting they were taken on a soundstage with artificial lighting. Shadows and lighting would be another thing. They point out that they see inconsistencies in the shadows cast by objects in the moon landing photos, suggesting multiple light sources. And then another one people go to is no blast crater. They state that there should be a noticeable blast crater beneath the lunar module where the engines were firing during descent, but it appears relatively clean in photos. All right. Then we have the Van Allen radiation belt. Let me go ahead and bring this up. We have the Van Allen radiation belt. Now, to be fair, a lot of people, and like I said, we went over this on the previous show. I'm kind of just re-going over the notes here. But to be fair, one of the theories is we could never have made it out of or through the radiation belt, especially going out and then coming back in. And, these astronauts most of them live long, healthy lives and it didn't have any sign of any, being exposed to this type of levels of radiation, right? They live long, long lives. But Van Allen actually wrote an email to a gentleman who had queried about this and asked Van Allen if this would be something that'd be possible to do. This was the reply from James Van Allen. He says, "Dear Mr. Lambert, in reply to your email, I send you the following copy, a response of that I wrote to another inquiry about 2 months ago. The radiation belts of Earth do indeed pose important constraints on the safety of human space flight. The very energetic protons in the inner radiation belt are the most dangerous and most difficult to shield against. Specifically, prolonged flights of humans or animals in orbits about the Earth must be conducted at altitudes less than 250 miles in order to avoid significant radiation exposure. A person in the cabin of a space shuttle in a circular equatorial orbit in the most intense region of the inner radiation belt at an altitude of about 1,000 miles would be subjected to a fatal dosage of radiation in about 1 week. However, the outbound and inbound trajectories of the Apollo spacecraft cut through the outer portions of the inner belt, and because of their high speed, spent only about 15 minutes in traversing the region and less than 2 hours in traversing the much less penetrated radiation in the outer radiation belt. The resulting radiation exposure for the round trip was less than 1% of fatal dosage, a very minor risk among the far greater other risks of such flights. I made such estimates in the early 1960s and so informed NASA engineers who were planning the Apollo flights. These estimates are still reliable. The recent Fox TV show, which I saw, is an ingenious and entertaining semblance of nonsense. The claim that radiation exposure during the Apollo missions would have been fatal to the astronauts is only one example of such nonsense." So, that was an email from Van Allen himself, Mr. Van Allen radiation belt. And so he says that the short period of time that they would have been exposed to that radiation would not have been fatal doses, right? So, with that being said, we know that is one of the arguments is that they would have never been able to pass through the belts. Now, authenticity of the email, I can't, vouch for that. This was listed as an email that James Van Allen actually wrote. So, take that for what it is. Okay. There are some other notes here we have. So the landing, I think we have that here. Let's see. Okay, footprints. All right. Let's see. Thought I had that here. Okay, yeah. So, as far as the footprints, apparently, this is skeptics may question how astronauts left such defined footprints in the lunar soil without moisture and argue that the soil looks similar to earthly materials. So that's one of the arguments that people have when trying to debunk the moon landing. Okay, Sputnik 1957. So we have this here because Russia started the space race. They were already in space, in orbit with Sputnik back in 1957. So it kind of goes to why JFK or the United States may have made the speech that they made in 1961, vowing to be on the surface of the moon before the end of the 60s, right? So that's just one angle to look at it. It makes sense. Russia was kicking our butt in every aspect as far as space travel goes, space exploration, and we kind of stood out there on the world stage and kind of made a gamble that not only would we get to space, but we would also land on the moon in less than 10 years from the time that Kennedy gave that speech. Just to kind of give you an idea of how that felt at the time. This is the image from the from the moon speech. Ah, okay. So now we get into why maybe this doesn't make sense. And this is one of the things that we picked up. The moon rock. So they come back from the moon landing, right? They come back. Um, they go on a world tour, essentially. They go to different countries and they give each country a piece of moon rock, is like a unifying thing for the world, for humanity, because sharing the experience with other countries. So, come to find out, in 2009, Holland tested the rock that they were given, and it was determined to be just a regular old rock, not a rock from the moon at all. So, the country that accused the United States of giving them fake moon rocks was the Netherlands, actually. In 2009, the Dutch National Museum of Natural History, was known as Naturalis, discovered that a moon rock they had on display was actually a piece of petrified wood. It had been presented to former Dutch Prime Minister Willem Drees by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in 1969 as a gift on behalf of NASA. This incident led to the realization that the rock was not an authentic moon sample. So we actually have it here. Curators at Amsterdam's Rijksmuseum, where the rock has attracted tens of thousands of visitors each year, discovered that the lunar rock, valued at, I don't know how many, what currency that is, but 308,000 something, was in fact petrified wood. So you got to think about it. Some people will say, oh, okay, well, yeah, they wanted to keep the real stuff, so they were just, it was more of a gesture, a kind gesture to these countries, but they were never going to actually give them any actual moon rock. That's what a lot of people say. That's what a lot of people say. These are some of the reasons why people say they landed, because you have the orbiter up there, NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has captured high resolution images of the Apollo landing sites, showing the lunar modules and footprints. Various satellites, including those from other countries, have captured images of the Apollo landing sites, showing the remnants of missions. But if you recall, there was a woman named Carol Rosin back in I think she came out during Disclosure Project 1, and she had made claims or made statements that she worked in NASA's photo department. She made claims that they airbrush and clean up photos that depict things NASA may not want shown. So you have to ask yourself, if NASA had that ability and has had that ability to airbrush things out, did they or do they, I'm pretty sure now they do, have the ability to add things into photos? You would think that's logical, very logical. If they're removing things, they may have the ability to add things in. And that's just a counter, obviously, to this, which has been listed as proof that we were on the moon, because they're saying, okay, we have the lander, we've spotted the landers, the different things left on the moon from previous moon missions. Yeah, on the face of it looks great, right? But then when you go down, the NASA airbrushes things out, could they potentially add things in? Then it kind of clouds the waters again a little bit there. And then this is the press conference that the astronauts had when they came back. Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong. If you watch the video, You can see them moving around. You can see the body language, and you can look at it a few different ways. And when I originally did this presentation, um, I posed a question in this photo. Do these look like the faces of men who just accomplished a monumental feat? We're talking about the first human beings to touch foot, as far as we know, to step foot onto a foreign celestial body. You come back, is this how you would look? Your world heroes at this point, done something no other human has ever done as far as we know. You made it back. You had the awesome, perfect landing. Made it back successfully, splashed into the sea, rescued out of the capsule. Go on this world. I don't know if this is before or after the world tour, but either way, you've achieved something that no other human being has ever achieved. And this is how you look in the press conference. So what I put originally was these astronauts are returning home. They didn't seem as happy as one should be after being the first humans to step foot on another celestial body. Some think this is because they saw something while they were on the moon. That's one of the theories. That they actually did go, but what we saw presented was actually filmed. They actually did, though, go to the moon, and when they got to the moon, they saw some things that essentially let them know they probably shouldn't be coming back to the moon, right? So you get that message, but then supposedly we have all these other moon missions afterwards where we go right back to the moon. So if Neil Armstrong, if they saw this while they were there, why in the world will we send multiple other shuttle missions back up there? So that's where they saw something theory for me kind of is like, I don't know, because if they told Mission Control what they saw and they get back, what sense would it make to send more human beings up there knowing that there's something strange going on up there on the moon? Who would do it? Who would go? You got to ask yourself that. Yeah, something we haven't been back because we were warned not to go back by ET presence. But once again, it just doesn't make sense when you see all the other missions that happened after that and the ones supposedly that they didn't list, like Apollo, I think 17, 18, 19, 20. And so the other supposed secret missions, right? So I don't know, but it gets you to thinking, right? Because you're looking at both sides. You're like, yeah, I can understand, but yeah, maybe not. And this is the other slide. So, okay, you're looking at this. Do these look like the faces of men who just accomplished a monumental feat? No, doesn't. Could these be the faces of men that saw something up there that let them know they probably shouldn't come back? Yes, that could be. That could be the faces that we're seeing. But once again, doesn't make sense for the reasons we just talked about. Now look at it like this. Yeah. Is this a look of men who found something living on the moon? So yeah, and that was the comparison actually that I had originally. So going back, just looking at this, look, men who just landed on the moon, did something game changing. No. Men who saw something living on the moon. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. So what that means is what these two slides are supposed to mean is that with this first one, If they didn't just accomplish a monumental feat, then likely they know they're sitting on a podium in front of the world telling a lie, essentially. And this could be the faces of guys who understand that they didn't actually go and that they're sitting there lying in front of the public in the world, essentially. That could be the attitude and the nervousness and the, you know, that could explain that. Or they could have seen someone on the moon and told them not to come back. Could be one of the two. I'm not going to say which one it is because I don't know. I wasn't there. You know, I don't have a dog in the race to say if they went to the moon or they didn't. But I think there's just compelling, things you can look at on both sides of the conversation. And one thing that we do know is that NASA has been deceiving us on the UFO front. We have seen this with all the press conferences that they've had. The one with Arrow with Sean Kirkpatrick, right? How they sat there and they said, even though we know they have this vast amount of data on things in space and likely anomalies, they sit there and say they don't have anything. So either we did go to the moon and we encountered something, or it's all a lie. We never went at all. Simple as that. Where do you fall in that? I don't know. We can definitely take a look at the chat and see what everybody's thinking. Is the moon already occupied? I've always felt like that if I were coming from somewhere else to this foreign planet and I wanted to observe and I wanted to be close enough to be able to come back and forth, then I would probably, post a base on the moon. It just makes sense that that's what you would do, especially knowing that side is never faces Earth, right? So it's like, that would make total sense if I was going to try to hide out of sight of, things on Earth, then I would position myself on the other side of the moon. That's as far as I'll go with it. I know people are saying that they've seen structures and things like that. Maybe you have. I don't know that I can point to any one piece of film or image and say, yeah, that's, that looks authentic. It all looks kind of weird to me, but it makes sense that they would be on the other side of the moon. But then you got to ask yourself as well, why haven't we gone back? Why haven't we gone back? If we got the message in 1969 that says, you guys don't come back here, but we still went back for many, many years, and then all of a sudden stopped going, period. So why can't we go now again? What be the reason now? It can't be because we were told not to go, because we went. So is it that we can't go back now because we never went in the first place? And this would be the first time, essentially, for human beings landing on the moon. This is both sides of the conversation, both sides of the argument. So if you had two people who opposed each other in the view of moon landing real, moon landing fake, these are points that each side, would be able to bring up to validate their conversation on the subject. And so, I don't know. We kind of scrapped the new moon situation, right? Like I know it was delayed. It was going to happen. We're doing the test launches, and all of a sudden it kind of scrapped it. The Artemis 2, I believe it was Artemis 2. We haven't heard Artemis anything in the news in years. Not too long after they made the statement saying they lost the knowledge of how to get there. What do you mean? That doesn't even make sense. How do you lose the knowledge of how to get to the moon. Nah, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So you gotta ask yourself. I mean, there's like I said, there's strong points on both sides. Even looking at it when I did the show the first time when I talked about this, uh, I was still at the end of the conversation left feeling the same way. Like, man, I don't know. Like without actually going now and seeing the stuff there to say, yeah, we did go. I don't know that we could I don't know that we could confirm that. Now there's another thing, and let me see if I can find that here. There was another thing that I had some points here. Yeah. So one of the other things some people would say is that thousands of people were involved in the Apollo program. It would be virtually impossible to maintain a hoax of this magnitude for over half a century without credible leaks or evidence emerging. Right. That's another thing that people would say, and I can agree with that. You know, I can agree with that. I can see how if so many different people would have needed to be involved in a cover up and someone hadn't stepped out, you know, I could understand that. I could see that. It would make sense. Once again, arguments for both sides of the conversation. Another one, this is one that I want to make sure we didn't leave out that I knew I wrote this one down too, was the reflectors on the moon, right? Because essentially one of the things that some science or astrologers say they can do is shoot a laser to a particular part of the moon. They left reflectors on the moon that send that laser beam back and allows you to know the distance of the moon from Earth. So it has actually been said, just so you know, it has been said that the ability to shine a laser on the moon has been happening since at least 1963, which is prior to the first moon landing. And the reasons that they gave was the reflectivity or something to do with the surface of the moon, the actual dirt. So they if you look and research this as I did when I originally did the show, um, they've been able to shine lasers off the surface of the moon since 1963. So if the first time we landed there was 1969, then let's make it make sense. Let's make it make sense. So another thing that is questionable, right? And I know Magneticus put this in the chat earlier, is just the technology. One thing they always say about the moon landing is you have more computing power in a calculator watch from the 1980s than they had aboard the Apollo. That's crazy to think about. That you navigated 200 some odd 30, I think 230,000 miles from Earth through space to the moon. All your maneuvers, rendezvous, all those things happened flawlessly with computing power less than a calculator watch. That's bananas. If it's true, it's bananas. To think about that, to even note, right? That's bananas if that's true. Right? The other thing that I pointed out was the lunar lander test on Earth failed, but worked flawlessly on the moon. Everything about the landing and transmission was storybook, picture perfect. What are the odds of that? And the reason why I'd said that was because the testing of the lunar lander before they went to the moon, Neil Armstrong almost died in it. He never successfully landed the lunar lander here on Earth. He never did. But you get to Earth, but you get to the moon, flawless. Flawless landing during a flawless mission, essentially during a flawless television broadcast to the world all over live. Flawless dip into the sea, coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. Everything was flawless. So it's just looking at how do you go from not knowing how to land the lunar lander to when you get in the moment and the pressure's on, you land it perfectly, flawlessly. It could happen. It's possible, but it's just one of those things you think about, right? And another thing that I considered and brought up during the previous show, which is a good show. I had it more concise during the show. You can go back and watch it. But one of the points that I made as well was they went all the way to the moon and took beautiful, picture perfect pictures in 1969, perfectly framed. Just like they knew where to position the camera. They knew which angles would be the best angles to take these pictures, right? When in 2023, we have digital cameras, camera phones on us all the time. And if we were to go visit a location, we would take images of things that we thought were nice or beautiful, but would we capture the perfect shot though? That would be the question. Would we capture, even though everything around you is beauty, you're out, say, in the woods or in the mesas of America, right? And it's just beauty all around you. You take a picture, they're gonna be good pictures because the landscape is beautiful, but how do you get the perfect picture? Or even if you're not even working with all that beauty, because I don't know if you would consider, necessarily beauty. They just had angles that facilitated the story perfectly, is more of what I'm trying to say. And not only that, but when they made the decision to say, okay, we're going to show this live, they had no clue if it was going to end in disaster or not. So would you take the risk of, after making a statement in 1961 that we're going to be on the moon by the end of the decade? We're in the middle of the space race. We're competing directly with Russia or USSR, wherever they were back then, to get to space. They are beating us in every possible way. We magically get the ability to go to the moon and land on it by the end of that decade as promised. And then on top of that, we choose to broadcast it live, knowing or really not knowing what the results could be or would be. There was no guarantee that these things happened perfectly, right? We've had shuttle missions where shuttles didn't even get to leave Earth's atmosphere before catastrophe in more current time. So NASA and the government trusted this mission to go as flawlessly as it did, and were comfortable enough to broadcast it to the world live. That's just something you got to think about. It's strange. It's just like you had to be 100% sure that this was going to end successfully in order to make a decision to broadcast live in front of the world. And if that was the case, you would more likely be more comfortable playing something you recorded at a film studio because you know what the ending is, versus doing something that you're not sure what the end outcome is going to be by the end of this. Like, you're just not sure. This could be catastrophe live on TV, an embarrassing moment for the United States in the middle of a space race. What makes sense? What makes sense? You know what I mean? What makes sense? And yeah. Just the other point, the flawless broadcast of this mission. When today I'm having issues with streaming right now. I can't hear sound on certain things. But we broadcast live from the moon, the whole moon mission live, flawlessly, essentially. That's the stuff that makes you have to think about it and question. No, not even getting into the things people always talk about, which are like the shadows or the image that they used from an actual stage that they put and used as so it tried to pass off as an authentic photo from the mission. Now that was another key, right? That you could talk about, and it makes everything else make sense. Then, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of information that could go either way. Yeah. Now to back that up, there was the fact that there may be something out there potentially. Project Gemini UFO. During Gemini 4, astronaut James McDivitt spotted a white cylinder with a protruded arm traveling in his orbit. McDivitt had said it was impossible for him to assign scale to the object against the black background of space, saying it could have been as small enough to hold in his hand or the size of the Empire State Building. So, we know there's been other astronauts that have been in space and seen weird stuff. We know things are coming in from space, so the likelihood of seeing something while you're out there would make total sense. And yeah, just going back to the beginning, I don't know. Like I said, we remain split on the moon landing thing. Some people are gonna feel this way, some people are gonna feel that way. And I guess we won't know for sure until we go back up there and retrieve our buggy, right? And our flag and our a lot of other junk that we left up there on the moon, right? There should be a lot of trash up there that we need to go back and clean up. But yeah. Joe Monk is saying, I wonder where the car that Elon shot to space is now. I heard, I think it was earlier this year, someone had said that there's a possibility that that could reintroduce itself or come back through the atmosphere. That it's out there, and it could there's the possibility at some point that it could fall back to Earth. So, and I remember when I heard that, I was like, who puts a Tesla in space with a dummy in it? Like, why? What for? What? Doesn't even make sense. Doesn't even make sense. Moody Mongol, they did get followed to the moon by one of the booster rockets. It should have fallen back to Earth, but instead it followed the capsule. Mission Control were scared it might hit the capsule, so they kept quiet about it, which must have been nice for the astronauts. Right. Poncho Zork, how did they get the buggy up there? I'm assuming it was, that's a great question. I have no freaking clue. I'm pretty sure we could find out. But, yeah, that'd be a great thing to find out. Let me see. See what they say. Okay, so according to this, the Lunar Roving Vehicle, or LRV, was a battery-powered dune buggy taken to the moon on Apollo missions 15, 16, and 17. The LRV was stowed on the descent stage of the lunar module and deployed upon arrival at the lunar surface. So that's how I got there, apparently. And it should still be there, right? Should still be there. And a lot of people feel like, oh, okay, all of a sudden you can't go back to the moon because when you get there, are the things that prove that we were there before not going to be there, right? That's one of the reasons that people feel like that. I don't know though. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. David Norenberg, yes, the government is not all up on broadcasting uncertainty. That is something they don't do well with. Right. It only makes sense. Only makes sense. Like, why would you take this live? You could have, done the mission, filmed it, I guess, as best as you could, and then presented it when you came back. I don't know why you chose to do live, why you were so comfortable with live, but you'd have to ask yourself that question. Let's see. Yeah, Mooney Mungo, they totally touched up the pics to make them as amazing as possible. It was the Cold War and all. Gotta show up these Ruskies. Lex Diaz, that whole live broadcasting from the moon was BS. And then they have like some electric car on the moon at the same time. I kind of doubt all that. I mean, there's, like I said, that's why it's a compelling conversation to have, because there's legitimate evidence for both things to be true, which is crazy to say, and why it makes it such a great conversation, because there are things that could point to both things being true. Just crazy. But I don't think you can overcome a lot of the we didn't go argument. Now you have people out there that just say, no, we went, period. Nope, that's it. We went. There's no doubt about it. We went. And then when you start posing evidence against it, then it's like, well, let's make it make sense. I think James Van Allen coming out replying to that email, if that's totally authentic. I come across that during the research I did for the show originally, and if that is authentic, then you would have the person that the radiation belt is named after coming out saying that it is possible that they could have done that trip and made it successfully through the radiation belt. But my thing is that when you're exposed to levels of radiation, higher levels than you would normally be, you would think that that would do something to your life expectancy, because we know about people that have come across UFOs or other craft that give off radiation. They end up getting sick or having something happen, right? But you get these astronauts that pass through the Van Allen radiation belt, come back through. They live till 95 years old. 95 years old, just even longer than most people get to live. But you were exposed to the Van Allen radiation belt coming in and coming out. Come back and you're just healthy as a bird, healthy as a top, right? I don't know, man. I don't know. They tested all the tech. A mock-up of the moon's surface is still located in the grounds of Area 51. You can see it on Google Maps. Yeah, they have the video where they show somewhere in the Nevada desert where Neil Armstrong is in one of the landers and he has to eject out of it, and then it explodes. It falls to the ground and explodes. So he had never successfully, controlled that. before they went up there. And it's just another thing. Like, okay, so he learned in the moment, or it just all the stars aligned and it just went perfect. Okay, I can see that maybe. But then what about all these other things that stars aligned and it went perfect? You can't. You have all these things, these elements that could have gone a different way if we're to say that the moon landing was successful and we actually went there. There's a lot of things that had to go picture perfect for this to happen, and the fact that it was all done on live TV in front of the world without any errors or any issues. Let's talk about it. Okay, this is Fair Moody Mungle. We talk about the good pictures taken. We never talk about all the ones that were framed badly because they never got shown to the public. Yeah, it's very possible. I don't know how much film they had in those rolls, but there's quite a few that made the cut. So you'd have to ask yourself, most of them ended up coming out pretty perfect. Joe Monk, United States had 5 or 6 soft landings on the moon before Apollo 11. Okay. Moody Mungle, today we overtech everything. Apollo followed the KISS ideology. Keep it simple, stupid. Yep. I can hear that. Then, okay, T-Bone's taking us in this to the moon real or hollow conversation. Talking about rings like a bell, as we know about that story. Maybe that's something we can get into as well at another time. Let me see. Yeah, I'm having an issue with the audio here, Zaddy. I didn't see your message earlier. I'm seeing it here. I see a UFO. I'm having audio issues where I can't hear. I wouldn't be able to hear any guests on stage right now. I don't know if it's my mixer or if it's something on the computer, but that's why we started a little late tonight. Destiny Armstrong seemed like a new name. If so, hey. Saying sorry, just joined and new to the argument, but what about the layer that is supposedly uncrossable in the atmosphere? And that's what we were talking about earlier, Destiny, the Van Allen radiation belt, which is the thing that people say, oh my, we still can't pass that today, is what people think. But James Van Allen supposedly, and once again, I'll keep saying that because I can't validate the source of the email, but there was an email that I read earlier where Van Allen, who's the namesake of this radiation belt, states in an email that at the trajectory that Apollo 11 would have taken, they would have been within that radiation belt for a period of maybe 15 minutes before passing through. And then I guess the same thing on the way back in. So that's, and once again, that email would have to be validated because otherwise you would get lethal doses of radiation if you stay in it too long. So, we're hinging our bets on that email being real, and I can't validate that is the case. So let me see. And welcome as well. Appreciate you coming on in, Destiny. If you haven't already, we appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and notification bell so you know next time we go live. We get together, have all type of great conversations, but tonight my audio to hear callers is not functioning correctly. So I still want to make sure that we got this show out the way. I'll be working on this tomorrow. And let's see. David Nornbeck also, isn't that why NASA and the government has claimed we have never been back? It's too dangerous to go through the belt. They didn't say that that's why. They kept saying with the Artemis 2. Well, the last thing they said that I recall with the Artemis 2 was essentially that they had to relearn how to get back to the moon or something crazy like that. It sounded ridiculous. Either they forgot how to get to the moon or they had to relearn. It was one of the two, and it was just bananas for them to even make that statement. It's like, how do you lose that information? How? How do you lose that information? And one of the answers could be because you never knew. You never knew how to get there. You never knew how to successfully get there. It could be one of the. It could be it. We don't know. We don't know. It's like I said, very compelling points that are made on both sides of the conversation. That's why it's so fun to talk about. Shout out Rich Universe, Moon Landing Talk. I love it. Yep, I'm sure you heard me here, Rich Universe. How you call in? Audio issues tonight. Normally we would have people on stage here already talking about this. And let's see here. All of these different part of the elephant, all of these debunks have been debunked numerous times. I don't understand the compulsion for people to believe that it didn't happen. It's literally looking for what you already want to believe. Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? Because if you come to the table, say you're a baby, right? You're a baby. You come to the table as a baby who hasn't learned anything or doesn't know what's possible or what to believe or what to know. So someone is going to give you advice or tell you something, and as a baby you're just going to take that information and 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 repeat it as if it was law. There's not going to be any critical thinking there. You're kind of just going to parrot what you were told, essentially. And when you think about the moon landing, if you weren't there, if you weren't in the capsule on the way there, then how do you really know that they went to the moon? And that's kind of what the people who speak against the moon that's kind of what their mindset is going to be. I don't fall on either side because, like I said, even after going through this information multiple times, that I did a full show on it before with these notes that I just used tonight. And even after looking at these notes again, I still fall at the same point. There's so much evidence that says yes, we did go, but there's so many other things that point to we didn't go. So it's just like I'll leave it up to everybody else to determine at the end of the day how they feel about it and if they think we win or not. Because the problem is we can't go now, and you gotta after finding out where you fall in the conversation, you have to ask yourself, why can't we go now? What is the problem with now? And supposedly, if you want to believe the reports, Ross Coulthard, we have Tic Tac craft that we've built and things that can zip and zoom and zip. But we've never been back. We still haven't been back to the moon. We took it off the calendar. Why? That's what you gotta ask yourself. And until as long as it's going to be that, as long as it's going to look that way, then this conversation will always be out there. You're going to always have both sides of the conversation until we can show that we went. Just because you read something in school when you were coming up that says America landed on the moon, can't believe everything you read. different part of the elephant. Is this really the whole night's topic? This is right up there with, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? That's a topic for another day. That's the topic for another day. But yeah, the audio is messed up, so we won't be taking phone calls. So this will be what we'll be talking about. And I think it's actually an interesting conversation at the end of the day. Yeah. And Poncho Zork falls on hoax. Poncho Zork feels like it's a hoax. And has every right to feel that way because there's evidence that says that points to it, and not just a little, but a lot, right? Not just the standard things that they always point to. Once again, the shadow. There's two shadows. There's which still is evidence and things you can look at, but those are the things different part of the elephant says have been debunked. Which I've seen shows where they have talked about why that would have been. So I can understand that. But as you see, you're still going to have people on both sides of the conversation. And we won't know for sure that this whole back and forth about moon landing real, moon landing hoax will not go away until we go back. We're landing probes on Mars. We're landing rovers on Mars. We're landing helicopters on Mars, millions of miles away. But we can't get back to the moon that's 230,000 miles away. And we can see it the whole time. You can see it the whole way there. I don't know. Yeah. So, with that being said, this one's going to be a short one. I just want to make sure we came on. I tested the audio, knew that it wasn't going to be okay, but I didn't want to cancel the show. Still want to make sure that we came on and at least talked about something. So I was able to refer to the notes that I used on my original show, which is still in the archive. You can see it when I originally did it and, it was more concisely put together. But I think that's what we'll do. That's how we'll end tonight. I'm going to work on my audio issues here, and then we will be back doing the same thing soon.
Bluetooth connected.
If you are lurking out there, then I would appreciate you taking the time to maybe hit that like button or the dislike, depending on how you feel about it. Also, it would be cool if you consider hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, to let you know next time we go live. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get out of here. Want to thank everybody for showing on up here, joining the conversation. It was interesting, and it just gets you thinking, right? It's the talk that gets you thinking. If you leave the show and your mind is still spinning, is still hungry, right? That's what the whole goal is here tonight. So you'll go out, you'll do your research based on what we talked about. Maybe you'll find some elements that we didn't look at. Maybe you'll find some things that shift your perspective on it. That's what this is all about. So definitely want to thank everybody for coming in. It's been fun. Let me go ahead and, this is the Ask the Chat question. So to ask the chat, which is something we do on this show, do you think we really stepped on the surface of the moon? You could answer that tonight, or you could put it in the comment section of this video. Either way it goes, participation is cool and key to make sure that this show does what it does, right? This is the late night call-in show. Unfortunately, tonight we didn't have the call-in portion of it, but I still think we walk away with something to talk about, something to think about. Did we go to the moon? Check a box. Yes, of course. No, it's a hoax. At the end of the day, it's up to you and whatever you think. Want to say what's up to our members once again. T-Bone, the Beekeeper, Dean Unley, Maggie M10, Flat 6, Miss Catherine Jones, Leanne Bridges, Holly Rotterman, Lil Cam 51, Fast Hemi, Dev from Sacramento, Race Fan, Magneticus, Woo Riders DG, Area 51, Smart Man, Crave Dog, Paramar, Joe Monk, Rock and Rory, KAS, West W. Decker, and Joanne, Emperor Penguin, Deadfish Cheese Spread, Amanda's Crazy Life Channel, Mike Bothwell, Kitty Catty Wagon, Izzy Beth. Do appreciate everything that you guys are doing for the show. And Mel WD40, who just became a member as well. Appreciate everything you guys do for the show. You make this possible. For all the subscription fees and things that have to be paid to put these shows on, you guys help make that possible. And you just don't know how much I appreciate you guys doing that. I'll come to talk. It's all good. We'll put these shows on. We'll continue to do it. Continue to raise the bar is right here on the Social Dig. So once again, I want to thank everybody for coming in. And send me an email. Call the phone number. Actually, let me bring that up. The phone number, 856-843-3444, but it's 856-THE-DIGG if you're outside the United States, 001-856-843-3444 or 001-856-THE-DIGG. You can leave a message on that line. It's a 24-hour line. You can text the line, send me images, whatever you need to do, and we'll make sure that line is working on the next show. Outside of that, pleasure talking to you guys tonight. Thanks for showing up. We do this for the positive progression in humanity, always and forever. Remember that. Have a great rest of your night. Talk to you soon. Take care. Welcome to the Social Shop, courtesy of the Social Dig. I am Mr. Rob G, and we are bringing you exclusive gear, and tonight's no different. We have humanity t-shirts, the positive progression of humanity. Yes, you can go out into the world and proudly show everyone what humanity means to you. $32.99. And remember, if you're a social soldier, you get an additional 20% off the price. That's right. Being a social soldier gets you an additional 20% off. And keep in mind, depending where you are in the world, shipping fees and taxes will be applied. Bringing you exclusive gear right here at the Social Shop on the Social Dig.